Started sharing my screen. Can someone confirm whether you are able to see the screen?
It's visible.
Yeah, thanks, Mehul. Yesterday we have discussed this concept called custom script extension and data disks. Here we have discussed about managed and unmanaged, and we have discussed this custom script extension for both for Windows. We have run the PowerShell script. For Linux, we have run the shell script. Yesterday's agenda is this. So today we'll discuss there is another option called run command for Windows servers, and we'll discuss about the state of VM, and we'll discuss about the availability concepts. Under this availability, we'll get the concept of availability zone, availability set, and VMSS. We'll discuss these three concepts. If time permits, we'll discuss all the three, or else we'll take to the next class. Okay. Now starting the session. Now let me start with the run command. This is similar to what we done yesterday with the custom script extension. For this, what I'll do, I'll provision a Windows VM. Once it got deployed, I'll do this run command option. I'll perform this task. So for this, I'm just logged into my portal. I have already created a resource group named docs. I'm creating a virtual machine. I selected the virtual machine icon. From there, here I selected create. Under this, I'm selecting the Azure virtual machine. Here we have different types of subscriptions in our company level, but here we are using the free account, so I have only the subscription. And I am selecting the resource group. I am providing a name, and I am keeping my region as East US, and I am selecting the image as Windows Server 2019 Data Center 2, and I am keeping the size same as it is, and I am providing the username and password. And I'm enabling these ports HTTP and HTTPs because these are the ports which will enable for web communication. And then I'm going to the disks. I'm leaving it as it is. I'm just going to review and create. It will do the final checks and the validations. As you can see the message here, validation is passed, so I'm creating a virtual machine. I'm just clicking that option. Now it will do the deployment. It is initializing the deployment. Let's wait for the resource to get created. Meanwhile, let me discuss the concept of state today. And now, what is the state concept is how our VM state is, like whether it is running, whether it is running state, or it is in stopped state, or it is in stopped deallocated state. In running state is that whenever we create a VM, mostly whenever we create VM or whenever we start a VM, it will be in the running state. It will be in running state. But whenever you shut down your VM, it will be will get this status stopped state. Whenever we stop the VM from the portal we have an option called stop option. Whenever we do this, we'll get this option. What is the use case of this is this: whenever we create a VM, there is some cost. We'll pay some cost to the Microsoft. There are some costs attached to it. The first cost is hardware cost, like we'll host this VM on some server, on some network, and they will have some cooling facility for that, and they will have some power facility for that. We'll pay for all those things. And other one is the storage cost. As you can see, we'll take the OS disk for this, and if we want, we'll attach the data disks, and we have the RAM, right? So what will happen is that whenever the VM is up and running, we'll charge it for both these costs. Charge it for both costs. But when it is stopped, even it is stopped also, we'll have the same hardware only, and we'll have the same storage. Here what will happen, we'll only just charge it for the storage cost, but underlying hardware is same. That is, we are hosting the VM on the same server. But when it is in the stopped and deallocated state, as you can see here, we have called deallocated state. What is that? Here, next time when you start the server, I'll just do one thing. When we deallocate is, the underlying hardware will change. That is, the server will change, and the physical and the rack also will change. So the VM which we are hosting, it may change to the other rack and the other server. That is the use case of stop deallocated. Here we will be only charged for the storage cost only. Why? Because the hardware got deallocated. So suppose here the hardware got deallocated. Now some other person can create a VM under this hardware. So we are not charged for that hardware cost. We are only just charged for the storage cost. That's all. Here there is some partial on the stopped state. We have storage cost also. Underlying hardware is also same. A partial hardware cost will be available here. They will charge some partial hardware cost. That's all. That's all the differences on the types of states in Azure VM. Now the deployment got completed. I'll just explaining you the run command, how to use this. When you can see here, see I'm taking the public IP address. I'm executing this. As you can see, we are not getting that IIS page. So what I will do is that now, as you can see in the left side pane, under the operations, you can see the run command. Just click on it, run command, and you can see number of options here. Whether you can list the what is the configuration of this VM, or whether you can enable the administration account of this VM, whether you can enable the automatic update of this VM. These are all the some sample PowerShell scripts automatically generate. But I am selecting here the run PowerShell script. Now what will happen is here, I'll just run a PowerShell script to make this server as a web server. Server as web server. What we have done here we have just provisioned a Windows VM, and we have gone to the run option, and we have selected the PowerShell script, run PowerShell script. We'll paste the PowerShell command, and then we'll run that command. Once the command succeeded, this Windows server will become web server. This is the process of using the run command. I'm just going to the portal, Windows VM, run PowerShell script. అరే నెట్వర్క్ చాలా స్లోగా ఉందిరా. అది ఇది ఓపెన్ అవట్లా నెట్వర్క్ వల్ల. ఇది ఓపెన్ అయితే పెద్ద స్క్రీన్ లాగా అది ఓపెన్ అవట్లా. ఇది కంటైనర్స్ ఓపెన్ అవట్లా. ఇప్పుడు ఏం చేద్దాం? Guys, you can see here the PowerShell script. Here we can paste the PowerShell script and we can run that script. So I'm just pasting the command. This is the command to install IIS on that Windows VM. I'm just running this command. It will execute the script. Once the script execution got completed, using the public IP, we can check whether the Windows server got converted into the web server. That is that whether the server which we have created we were able to access with the web or not. The script execution is in progress. Let's wait for the script to get executed. ఇంకా ప్రిపేర్ అవ్వలేదు, కొన్ని ప్రిపేర్ అయ్యి అంతే. Okay guys, I think it's taking time to run the script. Okay, meanwhile I'll go through the availability concepts. Suppose consider this a situation, your company, suppose we have a tech with company, we have website, we are hosting this website on virtual machines. We are hosting this virtual machine on this one number of virtual machines, sorry, on number of virtual machines. What will happen is that many users will access our website. The website will need to be always available. Suppose let's consider it can accept a traffic of up to 100 users. Suppose the number of users accessing the application is accessing the website is 150 users. What will happen? Our website will get crashed. At this point of time, what we need to scale our resources, and Microsoft have Azure have provided an option called VMSS. This is called virtual machine scale set. What we can do here is that we can manually or automatically we can increase the number of virtual machines hosting this website. So meanwhile, let me explain you the concept of scaling. Here what is scaling is that increasing the number of resources. The meaning of scaling is increasing the number of resources, and here we have two types: vertical scaling, and the other thing is that horizontal scaling. Let us consider this is a virtual machine, and it has 2 GB of RAM, 4 vCPUs, and 128 GB of OS. 128 GB of OS disk. So now what happened is that we hosted an application on this VM, and the number of users got increased. So what we need to accept the demand, what we can do is that we can increase the same thing. What we can do is we can increase this RAM to 4 GB, and we can increase this vCPUs to 8 virtual CPUs. So what will happen is that now it can accept the demand. So this is the process called vertical scaling. What is the usage? What is the meaning? Actual meaning of the vertical scaling is that here we are increasing the number of. Here we are increasing the underlying resources. That's all. Suppose consider the same situation. Suppose we have a VM and we are hosting our application here, and this is the VM, and we have 2 GB RAM, and we have 4 vCPUs. Now the demand got increased. So what we can do in the horizontal scaling is that we can attach another virtual machine here. We are attaching another virtual machine here. We are assigning the same to, we are naming it as VM2. Here we are given same 2 GB RAM and 4 virtual CPUs. What will happen is that now we have two virtual two virtual machines hosting the same application. Now the traffic got distributed to the two virtual machines. This is the concept of horizontal scaling. We are increasing the number of resources. We are, I mean, like we are adding additional VMs and increasing the hardware to accept demand. That's the difference between vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. And in the VM we have an option where we can automatically scale our size. See here. And the meanwhile the run command script got completed. Now I'm going to the overview of the VM. I'm just copying the public IP. Now you can see the Windows Information Services page. So I'm pasting the same thing in the chart. Please confirm guys whether you are able to access the same page or not. Please browse the link whether you are able to get the same page like me or not. Yeah, thanks guys. This is the usage of this run command, and as I mentioned earlier, this is the usage of this run command where we can run the PowerShell scripts without logging into the VM, which we discussed similar to the custom script extension. And apart from that, there are some other commands as well in the run command which we can use as per our client needs. Here, as I discussed earlier, the concept of virtual scaling, the vertical scaling and horizontal scaling under the VM. Here you can see the size option on the left side. What we can do is that this is the concept of vertical scaling here. Generally now the image is B2MS, but what we are thinking is that we need to increase it to 16 GB RAM and 16 GB RAM, and we want a 8 data disk capability. So what I'm doing, I'm just selecting this B4MS and I'm just doing the resize. But in the on-premise side, what we want to do is that we need to we need to buy the new servers and we need to buy the new hardware, and we can only then we can perform the scaling. But here within a click we can do the scaling. As you can see, I'm resizing this image.
Okay, then there is a hardware change or
The hardware will change,
meaning
right? Under the
meaning that the old disk
see,
will be completely removed and new disk will be created by copying the existing data. Did
can
you
you ask the
understand?
can you ask the question again?
No, suppose if the disk is having 200 GB and you created a new disk which is of 400 GB. At
Okay.
that time, the old disk will be removed and new disk will be created. If there is some data in the old disk, the data will be copied into new disk. This is the process or what?
Interact. Yeah, actually, it's the same thing what you mentioned.
Okay.
And now the image got resized. As you can see, now B4MS got resized. That's all. That's the option which we have, which Microsoft provides. But if you want to enable that horizontal scaling, Microsoft have an option called Virtual Machine Scale Set. Just search for VMSS. What I'll do, I'm creating a new virtual machine scale set. Here we are just creating the VMs and we are attaching it to the scale set, but we are not. We need to install the application here. What we'll do, the application team will take all these VMs, they'll log into all these virtual machines and they will create the runtime they require and they will host the application. We are just creating the sorry, we are just creating the VMSS only, and we are just specifying the number of virtual machines required for this. Here also same thing. I'm selecting the resource group. I'm selecting a name for this. Here there is an option called availability zone. I'll talk about this in the within a few minutes. Here I'm selecting all the three zones, and here we can select the image. So whatever the image which you selected, all the VMs will have the same image. Suppose if you are selecting three VMs, all the three VMs will have the Windows image only, and all the three will have the same size. Two virtual CPUs and 8 GB RAM. I'm providing the username and password.
What is orchestration mode? Don't see above.
Okay.
Security type.
It's not security type delete. What will happen is that just a minute. Even we are not used this option, but I'll just explain you what is this option. Okay. Now
Okay.
what we are doing is that there is two types here, right?
Okay.
There is two types here. One is flexible, and the other one is uniform. Here, as you can see, while we are creating, it is in the uniform state. Uniform state. What will happen in the uniform state is that VMSS will get created and VMs also got created parallelly. Both will get created parallelly. But in the flexible, what it will happen is that we can create a VM outside of this VMSS and we can attach this VM to the scale set. We'll go through that option as well.
Okay.
And one thing is that if there is any VM already created, this can be performed only while creating the VM only. We can perform this option only while creating the VM. After creating, suppose I have one Windows server already created, I cannot attach it to the part of. As you can see, I have already one Windows VM. I cannot attach it to the part of this scale set. But while creating only, we'll have the option of creating this. While creating VM only, we have the option of this attaching it to the scale set. That's all. That's the meaning of this orchestration. Got clarified?
I think it's better with the example.
Yeah, I'll show that. Here, what will happen is that it will not create any public IP. So, what I will do, I'll create a public IP for this. As you can see here, public ID is disabled. I'm creating a public IP for this. And then next scaling. Here, what is the initial instance count is that we can starting will create two VMs with the scale set. That is the option of this manual scaling and auto scaling. I'm just performing the auto scaling. Here, what I will do is that minimum number of instances. In initial instance count is 2. When we create the scale set, we will have two VMs. But the minimum number it will be 1 and the maximum number is 10. So what I am specifying the conditions is that whenever the CPU of one VM, okay, I will just show you the practical. initial count 2, minimum 1, and maximum is 10. So what I'm specifying here, the conditions is that CPU greater than 75% and CPU less than 25%. What will happen is that whenever the VMSS got created, we'll have two instances. So if the CPU is if the two instances have a CPU, there is some health check, health probe which will always check the instances. If the CPU percentage of both the instances greater than 75%, what we'll do, we'll ask the Azure to increase it to one instance. I mean, now the new instance will added. Now we'll have three instances. Suppose if the same case scenario, just don't remove this. Now if we have the CPU instance less than 25, initially we have two. What will specify the condition is that when the CPU percentage is less than 25%, we'll ask the Azure to remove one instance. So now we'll have one instance. If the CPU of the other instance is also 25%, it will not be removed. Why? Because here we are specifying a condition like minimum number of instances which we required is 1. So minimum, it will maintain the minimum and maximum criteria. Suppose if the instances all have 75%, it will only create the 10 instances only. After that, it will not create any other instance. That's all. Here the one instance will be minimum, we have specified 1, so we'll have one instance at any point of time. Okay, you guys understood now this concept. Here you can see the option, the scale out CPI threshold 75%. The threshold for every 10 minutes it will check. If the threshold is 75%, it will increase the number of instances by 1. Here also, if the CPU percentage is less than 25 degrees, it will decrease by 1. I am disabling this boot diagnostic. Regarding this, you will learn in the next coming classes. Under the health, advanced, here you have the options as previously the custom data. If you want to execute anything, you can place it here. You can pass the script here. And regarding this proximity placement group and host groups, we'll discuss tomorrow under the tags. And I'm just reviewing and creating this. It will create the VM, both the VMs, and it will also do create the scale set as well. So now the validation is going on. Now I'm creating the scale set. Meanwhile, Dilip, you asked regarding the answer to your question. See here, we have already created a version, and here we can only just increase the size. We cannot make this VM part of any scale set. I'll show you the same thing here. So I'm just going to home. I'm just creating a virtual machine, Azure virtual machine. Under the docs group, I'm just naming it as VMS1. Here, if you can see the option called availability options, here it is selected as no infrastructure redundancy required, but I am selecting it as virtual machine scale set. So now you can see the virtual machine scale set option got enabled. Just wait for the scale set to get created. చాలా టైం పడుతుందిరా క్రియేట్ అవ్వడానికి. అరే అని అర్థమవుతుందా? నువ్వు ఫాస్ట్గా చెప్పేస్తాను పర్లేదు సార్. Let's wait for this VMSS one to get created, so we can attach this virtual machine there. అది అవైలబిలిటీ సెట్స్ కాన్సెప్ట్ ఒకటి ఉంటుంది అంటారు ఇంకా అదేమో ఇమేజెస్ నువ్వు చెప్పేస్తావు రెండు నేను నీకు చెప్తాను అదేమో యాక్చువల్లీ స్టార్ట్ చేశారు రేపు మార్నింగ్ ఏదో టైంలో చూసి వచ్చి చెప్తా అలా and now you can see the VMSS got created. I'm just going to that resource. Here you can see the virtual machine scale set, right? So under this, if you can go to the settings pane, here you can see instances. And you can see while creating, we have specified the initial instance count as 2. So 2 instances got created. So here also you can see the option called size. Here also you can increase the size of each individual machine. Suppose here we selected P2MS, we can select the DS2 and we can resize. For both these VMs, the size will get changed. Here if you can go to this VM, you can see the same features as the previous machines. Here you can have the public IP for this. The public IP associated to the two VPNs here. So now you can see the instances count is only 2, right? So now what I will do, I am creating a virtual machine and I am attaching it to a virtual machine scale set. I am naming as VMS attach, and here I am selecting the availability options as virtual machine scale set. అరే ఇక్కడ ఆప్షన్ వచ్చింది కదరా VMSS లో స్కేల్ సెట్ ఆప్షన్ అలా కూడా యాడ్ చేయొచ్చురా నేను అదే చెప్దాం అనుకున్నా ఇప్పుడు VMRకి ఒకటి క్రియేట్ అయింది అదే నేను చెప్తున్నా ఏంట్రా ఈ VMతో దరిద్రంగా ఉన్నట్టు అన్నిటికన్నా మొత్తం అనేది దీనికి వచ్చింది. So what we'll do is that while creating a virtual machine, we have option of virtual machine scale set. I am selecting the create new option. It is redirecting to the same page which we have created earlier. Here we need to select all the options which we have selected. We need to select the scaling option, whether it is manual or whether it is automatic, and we need to specify the condition here, and we need to specify the networking. I mean in the networking what I have done is that I have enabled the public IP only. Here also it is enabling the public IP. So we need to select each and every option, and once we can review and create, and under that virtual machine scale set, you will have the virtual machine got created. but for the already created virtual machine, we can't attach it to a virtual machine scale set. We can just resize that VM, that's all. But while creating a VM, we can create a new virtual machine scale set and we can attach that VM to them, to that scale set. And we have another concept called availability options, as we discussed in the demo classes. These are called, suppose consider this as an Azure regions. Under these regions, we have a number of zones. Sorry. Inside each zone, consider this as zone 1, AV zone 1, AV zone 2, AV zone 3. Here we have different number of data centers. Suppose it mostly minimum 1 and to maximum 3 data centers. Suppose what will happen is that when we, while creating a VM, we have the option called availability. There we'll select the availability zone option, and under the zone, if we select the zone 1, what will happen? It will create a VM in two. It will create a VM in the two data centers, in any two data centers in the AV zone. Suppose here we have three data centers. It will create a VM in two data centers. So what will happen is that if any failure to one data center, we can recover the VM from the other data center. That is the option here for the VM data center. So that is the option. That is what we will do for this availability zone concept is, when we select a zone 1, here it will create VMs at two different data centers. If any data center got failed, we can recover the VM from the other data center. But in the VMSS, as you can see, we have enabled that data availability options. While creating, we have selected the three zones for availability. So it will host the VMs at three different data centers at three different zones. The zones may vary for region to region, and the data center may vary from zone to zone. That's the concept of availability. So while creating a VM, I'll show you that option. Here you can see under availability options, we have availability zone option. We can select the specified zone which we want. Under this zone 1, within the what we'll do is that Azure, they will replicate the VM. Suppose in the zone 1 we have three data centers. So at any, suppose we are creating, our VM will get created in this data center. What Microsoft will do, it will create a replica in the other data center as well. Just a minute. Suppose we are hosting our VM here. What Microsoft does is that it will parallelly replicate the same thing to the other data center. So whenever a failure here, we can recover the VM from this data center. That's the purpose of this availability options. So let me summarize what we discussed today. We have discussed the VM state, and we have discussed the run command usage, where we have triggered the PowerShell script, and we have discussed about VMSS, and we have also discussed about vertical scaling and horizontal scaling, and we have discussed about availability zones, sorry. And in the VMSS also, mostly for VM also, we have discussed how to scale the size up, how to scale size, like increasing the VM size or decreasing the size of already created VMs. These are the things which we discussed. And the main use case for this availability zone is that if there is any data center failure, maybe of any reason, any data center failure, because of this availability zone option, we can recover our VM from the other data center in the same zone. Where Microsoft replicated the VM. This replication will happen internally, which we don't know to which data center it has replicated. Yeah, that's all, guys. We have for today's session. If you guys have any doubt, we'll discuss on that. If you guys don't have any doubt, we'll call the session for today. And tomorrow we'll have only one topic left. Sorry, two topics left from the VM. Bono will take that regarding the availability set and the VM images. Those are some 5 to 10 minutes topics. Each takes some 5 to 10 minutes, and then he'll start with the app services, Azure app services. If you guys have any doubt, or if you can just paste in the chat box, or you can ask us directly. Or if you are still feeling up while practicing, if you face any doubt, just paste the screenshot. If you're facing any error, paste the screenshot in the WhatsApp. We'll reply back to that screenshot for sure. If you guys don't have any doubts, we'll just call the session. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Ams.
Thanks, Mayur. Bye. Bye all.
Thanks, Ams. Bye.
ఇది కొన్ని ఆప్షన్స్ ఎనేబుల్ అవ్వట్లేదురా.